Okay, good morning, Chevra. Thank you for joining us as we continue Likutei Torah Chof Gimmel. Be'ezras Hashem, this morning's shir is sponsored by Rebbe Klein. Ve'ila nishmas, his parents, Rebbe Bryndel bas Simcha and Ya'akov ben Yeshayo, the neshama shel Evan Aliyah, in the schus of our learning together, Be'ezras Hashem. So we continue with Torah Chof Gimmel. And in Torah Chof Gimmel, we have been learning about money, about finances, and about Taavas Mamon, and about the opposite, and how those two experiences draw on two kind of countenances. The ayin anpin nehirin. Oh, thank you so much. The ayin anpin nehirin and the ayin anpin chashuchin shkach. These two things. And the last thing that we learned over here was the aspect of Afar Toicha Koyi Mechayecha, and how the Rebbe uses this idea of Afar being a reference to money, Va'afar Zav Loi, eating up all the days of a person's life. If a person is connected to the ayin anpin chashuchin, which are connected to missa, to death, as opposed to life. And then, using a lot of the ideas that we had learned, the Rebbe decoded for us two sections from Tikkunei Zara, which we learned together. And we're currently on page Lamed Vav, and the second column at the words Kashim Mizanaisa. So here, Rebbe Nachman had pointed out that already a bit earlier, it was the end of Lashon Rabbeinu. Then Rebbe Nachman took over, and over here he's going to add extra things as well. So let's just read from there. Zois HaTorah hi Lashon Rabbeinu zal ba'atzmai. This lesson, right, in its essence, in the primary revelation, is the words of Rebbe Nachman himself, Ad hamakom shenirsham la'el, up until the point that is mentioned above. Rebbe Nachman says, from there on is my own words, which I heard additional things, which were not explained in Rebbe Nachman's own rendering, his own writing. And there's always more to say. What I heard and what I understood from his holy mouth. When I heard the Torah as it was revealed, and it wasn't included, or those bits were not included in Rebbe Nachman's own writing in his notebook. V'zehu. And Rebbe Nachman says, I'm going to now explain, I'm going to write the additional points that weren't included in Rebbe Nachman's own writing of the Torah in his notebook. And v'zehu. This is what it is. Kashim is a nice of keflayim ki aleda. We learned, going back toward the beginning of the Torah, we learned that there are kuf mem kolin. The Shechina cries out, kalani mi roshi, kalani mi zrai. Rosh Hashanah kuf mem, right? 140. And we learned that that's why Mamon is gematria 140, because it triggers these two cries. And these two cries are the aspect of 2 times ayin. Shtei pa'amim ayin. 2 times 70. 2 times 70 is 140. What's 70? 70 is the 70 cries that a woman screams out while in labor. Those are the cries of labor. The bechina bi'itzavin techalna. The bechina of the difficulty of giving birth, right? That Chava experiences as a correlate to Adam Rishon's curse of Parnasa. Right? These two things are connected. And ayin is the 70 nations of the world, right? The 70 idols of the Umas Ha'olam. And a person needs to cry to get out from that. And these are the two cries, kalani miroshi, kalani mizroi, The 2 times ayin that the Rebbe said is involved with a person who's living a life of Taavas Mamon, and that's pshat in the Gemara Psachim. Kashim is a noisav shel adam kiflayim ki oleda. Right? Kashim is a noisav shel adam. A person's engagement with mizanoisav, which is parnasasai, right, is parnasa, can be kiflayim ki oleda. Right? It has something to do with double the concept of yoleda. And we're learning that yoleda is crying out 70 times. Kiflayim ki yoleda is 2 times 70, which is kuf mem, which is kalani mizrai, kalani miroshi, kalani mizrai. And that's Rosh Gematria Mamon, right? And that's the side of that Maimer Chazal, Kiflayim Ki Yoleda. That's what Mamon is. 2 times 70, which is how many times the Yoleda is crying out. So here's going to add on to that and explain. So Kashim is a nice of Kiflayim Ki Yoleda. Ki Yoleda is Ramas Ayin Kolon. We learned that the Yoleda is the one who's giving birth, cries out 70 times, Keneged, the 70 words in the Mizmar V'yancha Hashem b'yom Zara. And over here there's 140 because it's double that. Ayin la'el. Why? Says Rebbe Nachman, it isn't just there's one kind of person who is maasa umatan be'emuna, right? Who's ayin anpin here, and there's somebody else who's ayin anpin chashuchin. Says Rebbe Nachman, no. If you remember, we learned in Torah Chof Beis that as a person rises from pnim to a greater makif, from nasa to a greater nishma, there has to be a yerida koidim the aliyah. That the aliyah, the yerida is tachlis, right? Of the aliyah prior, rising to that higher level, being tested, and then having the strength to be able to overcome, and moving up into the next realm beyond. Says Rebbe Nachman, in order for a person to reach the level of maasa umatan be'emuna, a person first needs to be tested and purified from this taiva shel mamon. In order to give birth, so to speak, to bring out from the helem, from not having the numbers in the bank account, and then all of a sudden a person gets an influx, that's birth, right? That's a bechina of birth. Meaning to say, a person's going to have taiva in this area. It's going to be, meaning in order to overcome Taavas Mamon, a person has to go through Taavas Mamon, right? A person has to experience it and then be mishaber it. That a person withholds from allowing themselves to be dragged down into Taavas Mamon. A person needs to be mizgaber, and a person needs to ensure that their maasa umatan is be'emes u'amuna. And a person needs to break and to nullify all the machshavas and bulbulim and the taivas of mamon that are coming upon his heart and mind. And this really is the crux, if you could say, like in this Torah, of so what is the opposite of Taavas Mamon? We're speaking a lot about Taavas Mamon. What's the opposite of that? And here, this is what it is. Rak kol kavanasai, the person's entire kavana in making parnasa is yebishvil Hashem yizbarach levad. Really is totally and absolutely conscious. Hashem fills that space. When a person keeps at the forefront of their mind, I want to make this money because I want to serve you, right? It's like, what's the motivating factor? But roiges rachim tizkar, like we said there in a negative sense, if you look past the roiges, you can look inside it. There's something to be compassionate about. You look past a person's taiva, so to speak, to go ahead and to be marviach mamon, and you take off a layer, what do you find underneath? Ritzeninu lasas ritzenecha. And the sa'or shebe'isa is not even ma'akiv. Because on that level, b'chol levavcha b'shnei yitzrecha, I realize that the sa'or shebe'isa is actually part and parcel of my service of Hashem, because it cannot be both. It can't be both. It cannot be either, or say it can't be either. It's not either Yetzahara or bust, or no Yetzahara. No. No Yetzahara means Yetzahara that's transformed into Yetzer Tov. That's b'chol levavcha. That means a person realizes Hashem put us in this world to live in this world. Hashem wants us to live in this world. Hashem created the human experience with the necessity to make parnasa, with the necessity to go out and be tzavin techana. That's part of the post-sin world. That's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it. And if that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants it, then that sa'ar that would otherwise be ma'akiv is actually not ma'akiv, but it doesn't mean that there's no sa'ar, right? It means a person is utilizing the sa'ar in the proper way, in the healthy way. Once a year, Pesach, like the Banish Chaz Mashal, you have to throw it out of the house lagamir, but the rest of the year you need it. You need it. Banish Chaz says, Punkt Fakir, maybe you should have, maybe 1 week of chametz, and then the rest of the year without chametz. Right? Why is it the opposite? Right? If chametz is so bad, so once a year you throw it out, and the answer, of course, is that you need it. You need it the rest of the year. Once a year, we plug ourselves into that hyper-specific, super matzah consciousness of Emunah and Geulah and Keser Elyon and the highest levels of redemption from it. The rest of the year, you go back into it, you roll up your sleeves, and you get involved. And this is how it needs to be. This is mukhrach liot. Mukhrach liot.
Is it a need or a prerequisite? Because in the sense that what we're doing is with this Taavas Mamon is instead of taking the chesed from Hashem, we are giving chesed to Hashem because we're not pursuing Mamon for the purpose of Vayishman Yeshur and Vayivat because we need Hashem now, but eventually we think we'll become independent with Mamon. No. Our search for Mamon is to keep our purpose, not to go away.
Exactly.
So that's the biggest chesed because it's with our energy in a sense. Exactly. Right. In other words, it's shifting out of the energy of receiving or taking or self, and it's shifting entirely. It's like a drill. You have that switch. It goes the other way around. Right. It's in and out. We have to flick that switch in our Yiddishkeit. Meaning, instead of it being inward focused, it is outward focused. And Mamela, that's the ultimate tikkun, right? Instead of taking, it's giving. That believe of Shalom.
Because it's Ritzonecha, it's his Ritzonecha.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
So is that level? Is that the idea of B'chol Levavcha?
Yes. Exactly. Yibishvil Hashem is Baruch Lavad Kadesh Yizkalav Hashem is Baruch Ayidiyam Shirabiach, that a person should be zoche to serve Hashem al Yidei Hamam and Shirabiach, to take what we have and to give it back. Like we said yesterday on Shabbos, Haid v'Hadar Lefanav. Right, the greatest glory is the v'Hadar Lefanav, is to give everything we have. To return it to Hashem, and to use that money to support Laimdei Torah, to support Avodah Hashem, right? And of course, tzedakah begins at home. That one's own family, that people should have what they need for Yishav Adas to be able to pursue the service of Hashem in the proper way. Ubishvil zeh samamela kashem is anoiso shel adam kiflayim ki yoleida. It's dafka kiflayim ki yoleida, like we just spoke out. Double the labor cries of a woman who's about to give birth. Because ayaledes, meaning one who is in the process of about to bring new life into the world, needs to suffer what's called chevle leda, right, which is labor. There are 70 leda, there are 70 cries that a woman needs to cry before the leda. And over here there's 2. Because we learned from the passage that there's a double crying of the Shechina Chas v'Shalom, Kalani Miroshi and Kalani Mizroi. There's 2 cries, right? Again, Kuf Mem. Rosh Tevis, Kalani Miroshi, Kalani Mizroi, Ala Neuflim Taavas Mamon, and it cries out twice. Before a person is able to make money in the way of holiness and kedusha, a person needs, like the woman in labor, is going to need to cry out. This is not optional. A person's going to need to go through this, and a person is working on all of these different taivas. This is not a unique among them. Right? In order to break free, a person needs to go through, and a person needs to feel the pain, and a person needs to feel the ayin anpin chashuch, and to know what that is. and to cry out, that a person should be able to get out of that cave, should be able to get out of the tunnel and into the light. That's why the kashim is anosav keflayim ki'oleda. It is doubly difficult. Right? I'm sure there are many people who cry out in life. Dafka a yoleda. Because the point that we want to make is that the Yoleda is in a process of bringing something new to the world. And the realization that Taavas Mamon, and really all the Taavas, which is very powerful, is labor. A lot of times we speak about the challenges that we are experiencing in our world, right? And difficulties and tsaras for Klal Yisrael, and different instability that we see around the world as the birth pangs of Mashiach, right? Chevle Mashiach. Right, we sing about it on Shabbos. Right, Chavle Mashiach. We're getting ready for Mashiach's arrival, but we don't often reflect in our own personal lives. Right, that going through the instability that we experience in Ruchnias, right, meaning in Taavas and in difficulties and failing and falling and struggling and trying to get back up and finding something we think works and then it didn't work and then back to square one and figuring out how to maneuver and to etc. So all of this, says Rebbe Nachman, is meaning from the standpoint of Torah of Beis, that a person needs a Yerida Kaidem Na'aliyah, then it's part of the labor process. Some women have very short labor. Some women, have very, very, very long, lengthy and difficult labors, right? Gewalt. Sometimes we just wish Hashem would induce us already, but or give us what's it called? Not induce the epidural. Yeah, give us some relief. But it's part. The point is that it's part of a productive process. That's why a Yoleda is used as the symbol. So let's start with and a person needs to really, it's a cry of tefillah, to cry out, and I'll have a lot of reason to cry out, Hashem, save me from this. I don't know how to be saved from this. Save me from this. I don't want to live in Ein Anpin Chashuch, and I want to live with you. Al Kain Kashim is a noise of Keflaim Ki Yoleda. It's Daika Aleda. A Yoleda, one who's giving birth to Ilu Hasam Ayin Kalin. The only difference is over there are 70, but over here it's Keflaim. Over here it's Kuf Mem Kalin Vahavin. Gamber Az, Rebbe Nachman also explained then, Shekuf Mem Kalin, or rather earlier in the lesson where he pointed this out, he explained that Kuf Mem Kalin in Shtepa Amem Ayin is 2 times 70, Hanu Kalani Miroshi, Kalani Mizroi, and that's why there's an aspect of Kalani Miroshi, Kalani Mizroi. Arguably you can say that the two kinds of crying out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one is in Machshav and one is in Maasa. Right, Kalani Miroshi relates that a person shouldn't even have machshavas of Taavas Mamon, and certainly Kalani Mizrahi is save my hands, right? That my hands shouldn't be involved, right? In actualizing these thoughts of Taavas Mamon, that require 2 kinds of calling out, Meiroshi u'Mizrahi. Each one of these 2 crying outs is an aspect of the 70 cries of a Yoledes. And over here they're double. Kalani Miroshi, Kalani Mizrahi. He's just pointing out that's the doubling, right? Because we learned from the pasuk Kalani Miroshi, Kalani Mizrahi, and that's the 2 times ayin. Kalani is lashon kol, Kalani, kol. Al kainhim kuf mem kolin, 2 kinds of voices, right? So it isn't simply that it is the substance of the cry of the Shekhinah. Kalani Miroshi, I am hurting, I'm pain, I'm wounded in my head. Kalani Mizrahi, I'm wounded in my arm. The very word Kalani itself is implying voice, crying out. So Kalani, there's a call that the Shekhinah is crying out, Miroshi. Kalani Mizrahi. Yeah.
Then you got the nun of the Binah. Through, so.
Beautiful. Lashon kol. Beautiful. Al kainim kuf mem kolin. Ki be'emes kol ha'revach ha'mechuna b'shem leida v'chal ha'mamen v'chal ha'ashpayos nimshachim rak mishviras Taavas Mamon. Because the truth is that all revach, all true revach, like we learned, all revach of Yeshli Kol of Ya'akov Avinu, that kli of bitachon, that kli of Kohen Levi Yisrael, the collectivity of what it means to be Klal Yisrael. But there's another Rebbe that I'm forgetting now. It's in my book. Kuf Lamed Yud. Forgetting. I'll look it up afterwards, but there's a beautiful remez to be tachin in a pasuk of the Rosh Taavas. I'm forgetting now. That's what I'm really after. But that's the bitachon of Yaakov Avinu of Yesh Likol. That also, but it's not what I'm looking for. No. You want to pass me this story? It's just going to bother me. It's the story of our lives. Yeah. One second. Yeah. No, it's very different than that. 1 second. He gets the thing. He gets the kli. Yesh Likol. And it is Rosh Taavas. Yitin lecha kilvavecha. Yitin lecha kilvavecha. Yud, Chof, Lamed. Right? Yesh Likol. It's not a Chof. Yesh Likol. Ya'akov. Yesh Likol. Not Yesh Likol.
No, that's not.
Yesh Likol. Oh, no.
Say it again. What was it?
Yitin lecha kilvavecha.
Because you're saying two things. You're talking about a 140 and you were talking about...
Yeah. No. Now we're talking about Yesh Likol. Right? Sorry for the confusion. Yitin lecha kilvavecha. Right? For a person to receive mamish ki'ilu, to feel, I have everything I need. Right? Kli. Yesh Likol. That's true revach. In order to birth that reality, can only come from the shvir of Taavas Mamon, MS, which, like we learned, is the aspect of MS, the aspect of MS and Emunah. You can't have MS without Emunah, Emunah without MS. Ki ein Emunah will be MS, like we learned, and that's maasa, umatan, be'emunah, you need MS. Truth is associated with standing. Because Chazal comment on the pasuk Imsachim as, or the Gemara Imsachim comments on the pasuk as Kol HaYukum Asher B'Ragleihem, and all of the Yukum, all of what they had accumulated. That was for you, Amr. All the accumulated Asher B'Ragleihem, all the property that they had. Say Chazal, what's Asher B'Ragleihem that they had in their feet? Mazeh. This is a person's finances, that a person is able to stand on their feet, right? Like, how do you say, you say bankruptcy in Hebrew? Pshitat regel. Right? It comes from this. Pshitat regel. Right? Or like to help a person, help him stand on his feet. You got to give him money to stand on his feet. It's this Gemara. It's this pasuk. It's unbelievable, right? This right, money is what helps a person get back on their feet, to support a person's feet, right? And what's pshat feet? Because kushtakai, because standing relates to kshait, MS, and that's netzach hanoid, right? Which is the support, excellent, which is the support for Torah, right? Which is time che'eraisa, those who are supporting Torah, and MS is in the middle, and it needs legs, right? The legs are the inyan of money. That's why maybe you could say B'derech, I'm not sure if it's B'derech, maybe it's true. Right, the Chanukah and Purim, right, which are connected respectively. Purim is Netzach and Chanukah is Haid, are both money related. In Chanukah everyone walks around to make Chanukah Gelt. So Chanukah Gelt, because it's Netzach and Haid.
Raglayim is double number.
Raglayim
Raglayim is 1 year. It's 283. Normal is
140. Wow. Unbelievable. Raglayim, 2 times Mamon. Unbelievable. Right? So here you have this aspect of Netzach and Haid.
So it's a Chanukah's Geulah.
And Purim is Matanas Lavyayim. Right? So you see these two. Let's try to stay focused, Chavra. Chidushim after. Questions in, Chidushim after. Yeah, Shemamida al Ragla. Al Kain Ikar Amamad Parnasa. Hainam Amayna Shal Adam Shemamida al Raglav. Right? So the Ikar Maimid of Parnasa is the moment of a person. That's Mamida al Raglav. Why Mamida al Raglav? Because Kushtakai. And you have to have truth. And that's living a life of emes, not living a life of sheker. Sheker is the ego. Emes is Hashem. Hashem Elokeichem emes, right? Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeichem Hashem echad. There is nothing else, right? So I can't take money and then use it for my own. There's no own. There's God, right? And that's the fixing of that aspect of Taavas Mamon. That's what it means. Kushta kai. If a person has emes, then they memela have emunah, because you have emunah kad ischaber ba emes, and then kai, and then you have parnasasa shaladam shemamide al raglav, shemamide al raglav kuniskal el avol shikra like kai. But if there's sheker, so then like kai, then a person doesn't have kai. But what's kai? Standing. What's standing? Parnasa b'shefa. Ki sheker avodah Zara. Sheker is Avodah Zara, like we learned, the hepech of emes, multiplicity, the hepech of truth, which is singularity. Taavas Mamon, Kamash Amar, Rebbe Nachman, Hamachliv b'dibura, like we learned, Kilu Avodah Zara. Avodah Zara is connected to Sheker, Valkein al yidei Sheker, Shu Avodah Zara, Taavas Mamon, Ein lo shim kiyum umaymed. That's what the Gemara means. Shikra loy kai. Because again, kai is being seen as a reference to Parnasa. Right, and the only true parnasa b'revach is yeshli kol is when it's without Taavas Mamon, when it's maasa matan be'emunah. Memela kushta, if a person has kushta, kai shikra loy kai ein lo shum kiyum umaymed hainu she'ein lo mamon hanikri yakum v'chulu k'niskal el. That person will not be zoicha to true money, meaning even if they have a lot, but it'll be yeshli rav, it'll be esav. It won't have the satisfaction of being able to feel that, like the tam, that whatever little bit he has, he's ezu asher sameach bechalka. V'zeu shikr loy kai kanizgal el ki avodah zara el acher, like we said, is stars v'loy avad peirin. If a person is going ahead and connecting to the avodah zara of Taavas Mamon, no matter how much they're able to make, it's stars v'loy avad peirin. It doesn't fully produce, like we learned in the Maimer Kamavur Sham b'Maimer Hanal Heitiv, like Rebbe Nachman explained well. Ki al pi aroiv elo aroivchem yaiser acher Taavas Mamon. Those who are pursuing Taavas Mamon, he mesim balei chayvos al pi roiv. It doesn't last, and al pi roiv the end pshitat regal, because shikra loy kai uma ein biyadam, and oftentimes there's nothing left. Like we said, even if they don't leave the world in debt, they were constantly dealing with the anxiety of various debts, where they just work and put tremendous amount of toil and effort in order to fill that void, which is that taiva, which again is of course a holy thing. Taiva is a holy thing. Right, taiva, it's coming from a holy place, but they're looking to fill it in all the wrong places. Right, like I described to somebody the other day. Imagine a person super hungry, and they're going to the place where they keep the Havdalah stuff, and they're just smelling besamim. They're starving, they're ravenous, but they're just smelling besamim. It's beautiful, but you can't fill up your stomach with besamim, right? Unless you happen to eat it, which is not encouraged, for the majority of the time, right? It's bechlal something else. We're trying to fill a part of us with a completely different sense. It's not shaykh to that, and so it's a holy impulse and needs to be elevated. So then a person, like we said, needs take an abris to get to the level to really reflect and think, what is the value? You remember, what do I really want? And to reflect on that, to realize money is a very lofty thing. Money, klalius hagvanim, we're going to learn this later on, comes from chesed and gvura. Right? It comes from ava and yira. Because chesed is manifest in kesef, yira is manifest in gold. Right? This is chesed and gvura. And chesed and gvura, kesef and zav, are the klalius hagvanim. Liya kesef, liya zav, amar Hashem. It's like the essence of money is kesef and zav, and then everything else, right? Value emerges from there. But these two things are very, very elevated, very lofty, right? Rebbe Nachman's going to say later on, especially Jewish money. It's not for nothing, that there's this stereotype of Jews and money. It's for a reason. Because in the Shoirish, money is an incredibly lofty spiritual value. That's really what we want when we're looking for money, right? But we corrupt it when we think about money in a this worldly sense. We limit it, right? And we distort it, and we turn it into a caricature where zelu umatan, it literally becomes the opposite. So much so that Rebbe Nachman writes in Likutei, it's not for nothing that in days of old, they used to imprint the picture of their Avodah Zara on the coins. Rebbe Nachman says dafka on the coins, because the coins literally were representative, if you think of it, of value in an olam hazedek realm. It's the hepech of value in a ruchnistic realm, where even though a person won't seem to be marviach anything in olam hazeh, doesn't matter, because a person realizes they identify with their neshama. The neshama is immortal. The neshama is not here for here. The neshama is here, ruach, to be able to pick up nefesh and lift it up to neshama. But when you flip that process, so then money becomes mamish the opposite of that, and it becomes a kli with which one, upon which one can imprint and implant mamish an image of Avodah Zara. Huh?
So now they have the picture of a monarch on it. It's malchus.
Interesting. Hopefully that's a good sign, right? So this is what it is, right? It's really a holy taiva, just like the taiva for his nose. It's not a bad thing. It's not a right. It is a good thing. It's just we have to figure out what is it. What do I actually want? And when a person comes to that realization, then they can look back at the alternative and say, well, that I really don't want. And then a person can go through the process we outlined earlier, where a person is really able to move into that higher consciousness, not simply to want it and not do it, but to not want it, right? And stay rooted firmly with many reminders throughout the day to remind myself, I don't want it. It's not pshat, I want it, I can't have it. I don't want it. And this is the Indian of Taavas Mamon as well. But instead, let's just try to, let's just...
I don't want it, or I don't want it for the wrong reason. Meaning the Avoda has to be about, I want to birth the right thing out of the moment.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm not saying no, it's not, I was speaking about in Tikkun Abris, right? In Tikkun Abris, it's more bifurcated, right? And a person could say, I don't want the negative expression, I want the positive expression. Over here, it's the same job, and a person's working, making the same money, right? But of course, it's a shift in perspective. All right, why do I want it? And that's why, again, it's more delicate. And that's why first a person needs to work on Tikkun Abris, right? And because then when a person is there, then it will be a little bit easier to be able to navigate this murkier realm where it isn't as clear cut, right? Because you're at the same job anyway, you're making the same money anyway, right? And it's a shift in perspective as opposed to a shift in action per se. Okay? And that's why it's a little bit of a loftier, more delicate madriga. Kol yemei b'yegis gedos. Mesaknen atzma b'sakanas gedos v'shul l'malas Taavas kilu haya aleihem chayv gadol l'shalem. Right? Hainu chayv Avodah Zara. And it's like, and again, that's what he's saying. Who are we really working for? The person thinks that they're working for themselves, but he says really, it's almost it's, and that's why like the word is so precise. Avodah Zara. It's Avodah Zara. He says no. A person's working for the Avodah Zara. Person serving the Avodah Zara. What do you mean you're serving the Avodah Zara? Because it's almost as if there's this obligatory impulse compelling a person to do more than they need to do. What would compel a person to do more than they need to do? Service of something greater than oneself. But over here it's counterintuitive because it's killing them.
It's an illusion.
It's killing them. But they are somehow doing it anyway. So then what are they serving? You can't have both. It's like Rav Kook has a line in Midas Hariyah. He says, until when are we going to be cruel on ourselves? We're cruel to ourselves. In the Yetzer Hara, right? It's like a paradigm shift. What do you mean I'm cruel to myself? The reason that I'm dancing with the devil the whole time is because I'm trying to be nice to myself. I'm trying to give myself pleasure. Rav Kook says, no. It's cruelty to self, because the self zemagilo, right? Like the famous mashal in Mesilas Yesharim, right? Of the princess who doesn't want it at all. Like the neshama is mamish. It's cruelty to self. Now the chiddush is we learned in Torah Chof Beis. It isn't just the neshama; it's actually cruel to body as well. And the neshama and the body have to have dialogue between them, where the neshama is explaining to the guf, "This isn't just good for me; it'll be good for you." So why can't we finally let go? We're being cruel to ourselves. We are being cruel, and it's a shift. It's right. So who are we working for? Listen to this. He says, "V'chol yemeim." I'm sorry. Go back a line. V'shvil l'malas Taavasam ki ilu haya aleim chayv gadol l'shalem. Right. It's as if there's like some chayv to pay off. It's like you have to but there's no chayv. Hainu chayv Avodah Zara. He says, you know what the chayv is? A person's obligated by this Avodah Zara. it's serving something foreign. It's not serving Hashem. Kamavur le'el. So I would say, again, it's almost as if work, which is called Avoda, always has to have a word after it. Right? When a person goes to work, O ze avodat Hashem, avodah Zara. There's no in between. There is no avodah stam. Because it's either, so who are you serving? Either a person goes to Avodah Hashem, and it's Avodah. A person goes to the office, he's a building manager, he's an accountant, works at a bank, he does whatever he does, and it's literally Avodah Hashem. Literally without changing one thing. Without changing one thing, it's the same Avodah, but it's Mamash Avodah Hashem or Lahapich. And that takes a lot of work. That's what Rebbe Nachman is saying over here. He says anyway there's no satisfaction there because it's an endless pit. It will never ever be satisfied anyway. So if it's never going to be satisfied, mali hacha mali hasam. Who cares where I draw the line? Because anyway I'm going to have to draw a line. So what does it matter if I draw it there, I draw it here, and be happy with what I have now? Because even when I get where I think I need to get, then brand new vistas of a horizon will open up before me, and then also I'm going to struggle with Sameach B'Chalkoi. So again, what does it matter where I am? So I may as well do that now. Says Rebbe Nachman, it's a classic. His money is not money B'Chlal. It's not even money. Whatever he makes in the biggest, it's not. It's lav shmei mamon. It's not called money klal. Ki ein lo shum hana mimamonai, because he doesn't have any hana from his money. Ki al acher starts will have a period mechulukanis klal, because the hebech of ezu asher asmeach bechalkoi is ezu ani ha'atzuv bechalkoi. Right? That's what it is. There's no greater pauper than that. So it doesn't matter how many houses he has. If he doesn't actually enjoy it, so it's a staris v'lo avad period mechulukanis klal. Right, so then he says it is therefore impossible for a person to draw down shefa and mezonos and to profit in a way that it will actually be called mammon, that a mammon the kedusha, she is sameach bechalkai, she's a ikra ashirus, that's what it means to be wealthy, is to be besimcha with what we have. The only way is to break out of the Avodah Zara of Taavas Mamon Shubachinas MS, which is going to be MS Kushta Koi Shemisham Ikra Ashpa Kanis Kalel, to live a life of MS. And that's why again these two things go hand in hand. Maasa umatan be'emuna will lead to maasa umatan be'emuna. Right, meaning in other words, maasa umatan be'emuna klalis, to do business in the context of emunah and Hashem, will naturally lead to maasa umatan be'emuna, that a person doesn't cheat other people in their emunah. Because why would a person cheat somebody else in their emunah, in their business? The only reason they would cheat somebody else is because they're trying to. But according to God's rules, that's not a. God will give you the parnasa you need when a person is acting honestly. And when a person thinks they're going to benefit from acting not honestly, what is that all about? It all comes from Hashem. Once heard from Shlomo Carlebach, he said a scary thing in one of his talks. He said, it's hard to say, I don't want to be mekatrin. He said this. He said, if it's katsuv from Rosh Hashanah, that there will only be a certain amount of money that a person makes. He said a scary thing. It made a big impact on me. He says, napshat, that no matter how many scams and tricks and stuff you try to pull, you won't make that amount of money. He says, no, you might make that money. But because it all has to balance out, chas v'shalom, someone might get sick of the family and then you have to pay doctor's bills. It'll even out some other way. This is different than most people think. Most people think, the deal will fall through, or he says, no. You'll get the money that way. But chas v'shalom, how many other places could we lose it? Maasa umatan be'emuna means that there's no reason to cheat. Because cheating is the opposite of sameach b'chalkai. Because what does it mean that a person's cheating? It means that they're not okay with their chelik. They want to constantly expand their chelik in ways that are not aligned with the emes of why we're in this world. So that doesn't make sense. Throwing away my whole asad lava, for it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I can't remember where they didn't give the amount to doc and they ended up losing it in taxes.
Okay.
The children.
There's just the way that he said it was very stark, Okay. Sameach b'chalkoi ki am ayidei shviras Taavas Mamon shebechinas emes. Shemisham ikra hashpa kanal yalkein kashem is a nice of kiflaim kiolei ki tzarich lelech v'la'avar u'l'shaber akuf mem kaled. So a person has to go through this. A person has to fail. Sometimes a person has to cheat and then get hit. Sometimes there are consequences, and a person, that's part of the journey. Shal Taavas Mamon k'nis gala'el. Every person in every taiva goes through this. You have to go through it first, then you see the bitterness of it, and then you say, I don't want it anymore. That's how life works. Yerida is l'tzarech aliyah. The bigger the yerida, the more incredible the aliyah Kadosh Baruch Hu is preparing you for. Asher rak al yedei zeh yichadel l'arviach mamon. Then a person is gifted the ability to say, wow, I need to shift my whole perspective. I'm in an abundance mindset, like they say. I already have everything I need. I'm already happy with what I have. It's like the wealthy people are trying to become minimalists, and then they're like, people are just minimalists because they're just minimalists. They just don't have lots of stuff. But imagine if that person was like, hey, Gewalt, like I already have what all the wealthy people want. They're trying to get rid of all their things. Gewalt, I don't have things. What a great thing, right? And a person can live in it really is all about a person's perspective. A perspective. It's the most important thing. Kitzar, and that's what this is all about. Kitzar leilech lavar l'shabar akuf mem kalon shel Taavas Mamon kanal asher rak al yidei zeh yichadel l'arviach mamon, and to be okay with that. And then a person is marviach mamon, right? Ezu asher hasameach b'chalkei ki ikra shefa nimshach me emes, because the true shefa comes from emes. As shu b'chinas shviras Taavas Mamon. B'zeh mekushra amar hetiv. Then I can understand the whole trajectory over there. Where Rebbe Nachman made reference to emes. Emes is Ya'akov Avinu. Ya'akov tikkun matbea, tikkun men marchatzois. Fixed up the money. Fixed up the Avodah Zara. Hainu hach, same thing. And then he went into kaflaim kioleda, and it's all connected, right? Because in order to be marviach mamon mamish, which is yoleda, kushta koi, it has to be connected to kushta. V'halan sham hetiv ma'od, and go back, he says, and review and understand it well. Ki div Rabbeinu Zal because Rebbe Nachman's words are very, very deep. And there's an extraordinary degree of depth in Rebbe Nachman's words. Let's just go a little bit weiter. Again, these are added tidbits, right, related to the primary lesson. This is why Chazal say Pnei ha'aretz heim hashirim. The word Pnei ha'aretz, right? The word Pnei ha'aretz is a reference to Hashirim, Komesh appears Rashi al pasuk. Va'arav hayal kol Pnei ha'aretz. Me and Pnei ha'aretz. Who's Pnei ha'aretz? Elo Hashirim. It is a reference to the Hashirim. Ma kesher Hashirim to Pnei ha'aretz. Says Rebbe Nachman. Simple. Ka'mamen v'hashir subechinas panim, because it's all about panim de kedusha or panim de sitrach. Or Pnei ha'aretz is going to be an aspect of Hashirim k'niskalel sham. We learned over there, Taavas Mamon b'chinas choshech, an pin chashuchen, darkened face, ayin sham, v'chem b'rumbas b'zayar, and that's why it says in the Zara, Kate sam lachoshech, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has placed an end to darkness, da zuama de dahava. This is the disgusting filth of wealth, right? And that's Kate sam lachoshech. Choshech is a reference to wealth. Vayigarish mepenecha oiv, vayomer hashmeid. It says over there that you shall, in Parshas Zinu, right, to cast away the Ayev Vayamar Hashmid and say, be destroyed. Ki Kol Yisrael Nikrim Tzadikim Al Shem HaBris. Rebbe Nachman said over there that every member of Klal Yisrael is called a tzaddik because we have a bris. Ayin Sham Yalkein Yuchol Kol Echad Shu Shemer HaBris Yosem Mechaver Lahapelas Chaver Ku B'chinas Tzadik Panim De Kedusha L'Gabe Chaver. We learned, right, that every person who is greater in Shmiras HaBris than the other, if somebody starts up with them, it can cause V'nashamayim that other person will fall into Taavas Mamon and be very bitter with their life. A person needs to be careful. How does anybody know where anybody else is holding in Shemiras Habris? Could be the person that you're starting up with is greater in Shemiras Habris than you, and therefore a person needs to be careful with their Taavas Mamon. It can cast a person into Taavas Mamon. Person needs to be very, very careful about machlekes. Sham ki kol Yisrael nekaram tzadikim al shem habris. Rebbe Nachman said that every member of Klal Yisrael is called a tzaddik on account of the bris milah. Shamati azmi piba kadosh beferish. Says Rebbe Nachman, I heard from Rebbe Nachman's holy mouth explicitly, Sha'amar, that he said, Shekol Yisrael al shem shehem nimoilim, because they have bris milah, al kein kulam nikram and tzadikim. Therefore, everybody is called a bris, and the women who are allowed to say in benching, right, al brischa shechasamta v'sorenu, they don't leave that out. There's an aspect of bris, there has to be, right, and therefore, in as much as there's a zivug in the aspect of vayil basar echad, right? So they have an aspect of bris as well. V'zebachinas mezuzah v'chulu v'zebahaya shaka b'tzarecha v'chesav ta'afas lach ki shaka b'chinas bris ayin sham, right? We put the word shakai on the mezuzah, right? And we learned about the mezuzah smach zvulim b'tzeisecha, right? The money going, right? A person going out of their home to be able to get what they don't already have and to increase their chelik, but in a holy way, in chelik the kedusha and ashiras the kedusha. Ayin Sham. Says Rav Nassan, Daika Shakkai. Zebachina Shakkai. What's Shakkai? Sha'amar la'olam, I die. Right, because Shakkai, which is the name of bris, Anikal Shakkai, pray urave, is the aspect of what we put on the mezuzah, which is a shmir for Taavas Mamon, right? And why? Because Shakkai is Misha'amar la'olam, I die. So Shakkai is the name of Sameach Bechelkai. Dahainu shesamach bechelkai va'amar dai l'mashi yesh lai. And it's Gevalt, it's also the name of children, because it means that a person says about their children, Sameach b'chelki, even if the kids didn't turn out, exactly the way that I hope. There's a bechina of Sameach b'chelki on every single level. Shakkai is the name of children, right? Anikal Shakkai pray revei, and it's also Sha'amar la'olam I die. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave me. This is what we have. And a person is satisfied and doesn't look to be marviach yoser. Let's just finish this up once we're here. We learned later on in the lesson that through mezuzah a person is guarded from Taavas Mamon. This that it says in Shema is connected the lav of loy sachmoid kaniskal el ayin sham with all the other aspects. Right, you hang it on the shlisha elyon, which is connected to pragmatia, etc. All the other incredible symbols of the relationship between mezuzah and Taavas Mamon. Says Rav Nassan, good. Ata boy re'ei neflois Hashem. Now come and see the wonders of God. Don't need proofs to God's existence. You just need the Likutei Moharan. You see it. You see it. You see the emes of the Torah. Come and see neflois Hashem. Ki mevar b'Yerushalmi Peah, because the Gemara in Yerushalmi Peah, and it's also brought in Bereshis Rabbah. Our Tabon was a Melech Paras, it was a Persian king. Shalach leRebbe Chad Margalisa Tava. He sent to Rebbe a diamond. Shalach leRebbe, and Rebbe sent him in return a Chada Mezuzah. He sent him a mezuzah, and there's a whole back and forth, right? Our Tablon said to Rebbe, I sent you something that is unimaginable value, and you sent me something I could buy with 2 zuz. And he said to him, you have no idea what this is. He said to him, this, you sent me something that I need to guard. I sent you something that will guard you and everything that you have, right? And they had a back and forth about it. And L'chaira and the Mefarshim are all bothered by this because it's usher to give a guy a mezuzah. It's halach and shulchan aruch. You cannot send a mezuzah to a guy. Right? If a guy wants, give me a mezuzah to hang on my house, cannot send. It's just for a yidden. It's an ice for Klal Yisrael. So L'chaira u'pela, madua shalach le-mezuzah daika v'lo mitzvah acheres. The Rashba asked this question, right? Meaning he should have sent him tzitzis. He should have sent him something else, right? That he's allowed to send, but not a mezuzah. And all the Mefarshim answered different answers. No, he didn't send it al Torah's mezuzah, or he wrote a mezuzah especially shaloi l'shem mitzvah's mezuzah, whatever it is, to get around it. But why a mezuzah? Rebbe Nachman revealed in this Torah a very native. Ki mezuzah daika mavatal chandas mamon, because a mezuzah is supposed to be sent in response to Taavas Mamon. V'alkein shalach lemezuzah daika. He therefore sent him daika mezuzah. Ki artaban shalach lemergalisa tava. Hainu ashirus mamon. Artaban sent him what was valuable to him, which is ashirus. Ki hayashav mamon harbe, because Gevalt, Yeshli Rav, look how much money it costs. V'aseh ikar chashivas mizeh, and that was the primary chashivas to him. It was all about quantity. Akein shalach Rebbe Mezuzah Daika Mezuzah Mevatachem das Ashiras Keniskala El. He took it and he sent him a mezuzah because he said, no, it's all about quality, and it's also about yeshli kol. It's all about ezu ashra sameach v'chalkai. It isn't about how big a person's chelik is. You can have the greatest chelik in the world, but if it's atzvos, then it's ani. This is true ashiras. And that's why he sent him Daika and Mezuzah to counteract the ashiras that he sent in the form of a Margalisa Tava. Milcha Kisaria. Salt, when it spoils, Taavas Mamon is a reference to the person who falls into the sirchot, into the rot of Taavas Mamon. That's why it was Dafka used the pasuk. The words Kisaria when it spoils, Shezeu Lashon Anemra Ba'akum, because this is a reference to what it says by the Akum Kamashikasu Saru Mar Menaderech, right? When it about the Chetei Egel, Saru Ma'or Manaderech. They turn very quickly from the derech and they turn to what? To idol worship. Egel ha Zahav, right? And over here you see that lashon Saria means to spoil. Why? Because they didn't have the Bris Melech Olam. They didn't have the Tzaddik. They didn't have Amunah. They fell from Mamon de Kedusha into Taavas Mamon. Saru Maher, right? Is a reference to Avodah Zara. So Milcha Ki Saria, right? Is a lashon of Saru. Ki Amashukah B'Mamon Ovid Kol Akum Kaniskal El, because the person who's stuck in Mamon is literally Oh, I'm sorry, here it is. I thought it was in Likutei. Says Rebbe Nachman, therefore, on every coin, chakuk avodah zara shalakam. Here it is. Right, they imprinted the avodah zara. Let's just finish up quickly. Al piadvar me'ili yavan amaskil lefarish kula sugya ta'azav koines hakesef ina as azav. Right, one of the most difficult sugyas. Right, Perak Hazav, very famous. Hazav koines hakesef as it relates to. As it relates to which one you can do a kinyan with, which one is considered money, right? And what comes out from the sugi is mashu matbea b'yoytze chashav mais, right? The matbea that is used in the shuk, even though it has lesser value, in this case kesef, let's say, or nechoshes, right, is called money, right? And that cannot be used to make a kinyan. Right, and therefore zav klape it can be used paradoxically, even though it has much more value, can be used to affect the kinyan, right? Where kesef cannot. Without getting into the whole thing, ayin shem kol sugya. Have to take a look at the sugya. There's a difficult one, but sugya imais nikna b'chalipin. The question is whether mais can be used with can be nikna in chalipin. Sugya de kol anasid dama ba'acher. All these incredibly difficult sugyas hakol yivur lemaskal piater hazoisim oiksas hakdamas. You need some other information, but once you have that, you can look. And if you take a look, and this will finish in Sefer Mayim Amukim, one of my favorite pirushim on Sefer Likutei Moharan from Moshe Shmuel Kramer. He writes over there and explains at least the last sugya. What was the lashon? The sugya over there. He explains it alpi the akdamas. Yeah, right. Kol hanasid damim ba'acher, in the most beautiful way. It's all derech remez. It's a mishnah. We have to take a look over there. Binah, there, I'll take a picture of it and send it on the chat to those who would like to learn it on their own. Hadron Allah Tarach of Gimmel, Hadrach Allah. This is it. Now you can understand why in Breslov they learn one Torah for months. This Torah you could soak in. This is but we have to move on. But Ashreinu Mateh Chakini Now let tomorrow Yismach lei, imevakshei Hashem.